A boy and a girl sit side by side, controllers in hand, locked in a quiet but intense video game match. The boy, barely able to focus, wonders how this bizarre situation even happened. Just an hour ago, none of this seemed remotely possible. It all started with the sound of the doorbell. When he goes to check, he finds a girl standing at the front door, small, quiet, and clearly younger. It doesn't take long to guess that she's one of his little sister's friends. He tells her that his sister is out shopping for snacks and says she should come in and wait. She nods and steps inside, far too quickly, almost as if she had imagined this exact scenario beforehand. Trying to be a decent host, he brings her iced tea and reassures her that his sister will return soon. To kill time, he suggests playing some games. She nods again, silent, unreadable, and making things more awkward than they need to be. He then realizes they don't actually have any consoles lying around. Before he can say anything, she pulls a switch from her bag like it's the most normal thing in the world. He blinks. She really came prepared. Now here they are, present moment, score, 5-0. He hasn't won a single match. She doesn't say a word but looks visibly satisfied. Just then, the front door bursts open. His sister, Chi, walks in loudly, announcing her return with too much energy. The boy tells her off for being gone so long and leaving a guest unattended. Chi apologizes quickly and thanks him for handling things while she was away. Turning to her friend, she greets Suyu warmly and questions why she arrived earlier than the agreed time. She reminds her that she had specifically said she'd be out shopping. Her tone grows playfully suspicious as she wonders aloud what her friend was doing alone with her brother. Suyu mumbles a single word in response, games. When she asks if she had fun, Suyu simply nods. Chi chuckles, saying that her friend's expressions are easy to read. The boy exhales slowly, controller still in hand. Today has taken a very strange turn. Since his little sister's friend isn't much of a talker, he finds it hard to tell what's going on in her head. As he sets out drinks and snacks for them, she quietly lends a hand. He thanks her, and true to form, she gives a silent nod in response. Later, when they reach the room, he politely asks if it's okay to come in. Once again, she responds with her signature nod, wordless and unreadable. He can't help but dwell on her quiet nature, but pushes the thought aside and steps into the room with the tray. Chi thanks them for the food, clearly delighted, but her brother immediately shifts focus to more important things, like her studies. She assures him she's only taking a short break and tells him not to worry. Just as he's about to leave, Chi stops him, saying she needs a bit of help. She quickly adds that she's not the only one. As if on cue, Suyu silently nods beside her, backing the request. He lets out a quiet sigh but agrees to stay for a while. To his surprise, she actually seems serious about studying this time, flipping through her notes with genuine focus. The room settles into a calm rhythm, until it's broken by Tsuyu, who suddenly glances up from her textbook and gestures toward a question she's stuck on. Chi leans over to look but seems just as puzzled. Instead of answering, she turns to her brother and asks if he can take a look. Quickly shifting into his teaching mode, he begins explaining the solution, pointing out the correct formula. Without realizing it, he leans a little closer to Suyu. Flustered, she finds herself unable to concentrate, barely catching a word of what he says. When he asks if she's understood anything, she can only stare at him blankly, a silent, obvious no. Chi picks up on the situation and steps in, asking him to repeat the explanation. He sighs and scolds her for never paying proper attention the first time, though his tone is more tired than harsh. Once the studying is wrapped up, Chi stretches dramatically, letting out a loud moan as she announces that her work is finally done. Her brother shoots her another warning glance, reminding her, again, to keep the noise down. Without any subtlety, Chi declares she's heading to the bathroom and walks off, leaving the two alone once more. Trying to fill the silence, he asks Suyu if she's feeling tired from all the studying. She nods. He hesitates, wanting to keep the conversation going but not knowing how. The silence grows heavy between them, until she quietly thanks him for his help, her voice barely above a whisper. Caught off guard, he replies that it was nothing, adding that she's welcome any time. Just as he says he's about to leave, Chi, who has been standing just outside the room, overhears the exchange. She bursts back in, eyes immediately darting to her friend's face, which is now flushed a gentle red. Chi asks if everything went okay, and Suyu replies shyly that she managed to thank him properly this time. Chi, melting at the sight, thinks to herself how impossibly cute her friend is and feels a strong urge to just pull her into a hug. Later, the two of them gather for what Chi enthusiastically declares to be a strategy meeting. Suyu, ever the quiet supporter, claps her hands softly in encouragement. Chi sets the agenda with flair. Private Suyu is to walk home together with her big brother. There's a pause, then Suyu turns red, her face lighting up with embarrassment. Chi teases her for being such a late bloomer, finding something so simple this nerve-wracking. Suyu quickly shakes her head in protest, but Chi narrows her eyes playfully. At this rate, she says, progress will come to a halt. Is Suyu really fine with that? Again, Suyu shakes her head, this time with more conviction. And so, the fated hour arrives. As Suyu prepares to head home, she boldly announces that her brother will be accompanying her. He stares at his sister in surprise, demanding an explanation. She casually asks if he has a problem with spending time with Suyu. He immediately clarifies, it's not that he minds, but he wants to know why she isn't joining them. She claims she's not feeling well, though he doesn't buy it. Before he can question her further, she pushes the two of them out the door without another word. Apologizing for his sister's impulsive behavior, he mutters that she's nothing but an irresponsible brat sometimes. Meanwhile, Suyu receives a message from said brat. Now that the perfect scene has been set, it's time to act. At the very least, she should try to hold his hand. Her thoughts begin to circle nervously around the idea. She starts eyeing his hand, heart racing. As they near the streetlight, she tentatively reaches out, but instead of grabbing his hand, her fingers grasp the hem of his shirt. He turns to say something and startled, she quickly retreats, only to bump her head straight into the pole. The sound is sharp, and he instantly looks worried. She insists she's fine, despite the welling tears at the corners of her eyes. He crouches down to check on her more closely, but his proximity only flusters her more. Stammering, she tells him she can go the rest of the way on her own. He hesitates, but agrees, figuring it's probably safe if her place isn't too far. Later that night, Chi receives a call. She immediately congratulates Suyu for braving the walk home and demands to know how it went. With bated breath, she asks if Suyu managed to hold hands with him. After a pause filled with hesitation, Suyu admits she held on to his shirt. She lets out a laugh, both amused and endeared. The ingredients were ready, the recipe laid out before them. With a fiery determination in her eyes, Suyu looks set to conquer the art of baking. Meanwhile, Chi raised her knife, clearly unsure of where or how to even begin. Reading through the steps, Chi realized that the first task was to prepare the dough. The knife for now was useless. Eggs, sugar, salt, these were the essentials. She stated with confidence that they were going to make cookies that even her big brother would love. According to the recipe, the most important ingredient was love. At this, Suyu flushed a deep red and began kneading the dough with sudden intensity. Chi, observing her reaction, couldn't help but think once again how easily Tsuyu's feelings showed on her face. When the dough was finally done, they both agreed it had been harder than expected. The next step was to roll it out and cut it into shapes. Chi opted for a star-shaped mold. Suyu quietly picked the heart. Chi glanced sideways and asked with a teasing smile if the heart was meant for Big Brother. Suyu flinched at the question and awkwardly pretended not to hear, but her body language was telling enough. Chi grinned, calling her out for being suspicious. Suyu, not amused, gave her a silent warning glare. Unfazed, Chi giggled that even when Suyu was angry, she was still adorable. But when her friend didn't respond, Chi quickly offered a sheepish apology. A glance beside her revealed Suyu looking dreamily at the cookie mold, completely absorbed. Maybe, Chi thought, she was overthinking things. Eventually, the door opened. Her brother was home. Noticing an extra pair of shoes, he figured someone was visiting. As he stepped inside and saw Suyu, he greeted them both casually. Chi proudly presented their freshly baked cookies. They looked as good as they smelled. She pointed out that Suyu had made them too and asked him to make some tea while she washed her hands. He went off to find the guest dishes, only to be met with Suyu joining him in the kitchen. When he asked if she wanted to help, she responded with her usual silent nod. She handed him the kettle, and he couldn't help but think how sweet and thoughtful she was. They decided on black tea while, in the other room, Chi was already trying to sneak a few cookies before the tea was even ready. As he poured the water, he suddenly remembered something and turned to Suyu. He asked her to hold out her hand. When she did, he dropped a few small candies into her palm, saying he'd make sure to give her a proper treat next time. Suyu softly whispered a thank you, but her voice was drowned out by Chi yelling from the living room, asking what was taking them so long. He, unfortunately, didn't catch what Suyu had said. That night, Suyu lay in bed, staring at her phone. She had searched, "What does it mean if a boy gives you candy?" The top result claimed it meant the person liked you. She turned crimson, barely able to hold in her emotions. Her heart raced. In her diary, she wrote one simple, powerful line. Today was an insanely happy day. In an abandoned park, Suyu stumbled upon a black cat that meowed at her, its cries sounding unusually needy. She quickly began rummaging through her bag, producing a handful of items, each a toy a cat might enjoy. As she laid them out one by one, a subtle tension filled the moment. The cat eyed the offerings with a critical gaze, then, with a curt flick of its tail, turned its head away in disapproval. Suyu pouted, clearly feeling rejected. But she didn't give up. Regaining her composure, she reached for her trump card, a Nokojireshi, a seemingly ordinary grass-like plant. The moment she shook it, the cat's tail swayed in response. Encouraged, she gave it another flick. This time, the cat pawed at the plant and let out a friendlier meow. It seemed she had finally won it over. Brightening up, Suyu responded with a cheerful meow of her own. Just then, MC happened to be passing by and noticed her crouched on the ground. From his vantage point, the cat was hidden, and he was visibly confused. Approaching her, he greeted her and asked what on earth she was doing. Startled, Suyu softly muttered something about a stray cat. It was only when he got closer that he saw the black cat and understood what she meant. His eyes moved to the scattered toys around her. Before he could say anything else, the cat wandered over and began rubbing affectionately against his legs. Suyu's face fell, clearly distressed by how easily the cat had taken to him. As she sat in gloomy silence, he scooped the cat into his arms and praised its bravery for not showing a hint of fear. Then, to her surprise, he began scratching behind its ears. Watching this, Suyu couldn't help but wonder what that kind of affection would feel like. She experimentally touched her own ears, lost in curiosity. He called her name, trying to get her attention, but she was too absorbed in her thoughts to hear. Eventually, he reached out and tapped her gently, causing her to flinch with surprise. Her reaction was so intense that he paused and asked if he had overstepped. She quickly reassured him that it was fine, and they let the moment pass. As he turned his focus back to the cat, Suyu remained distracted by what had just happened. Then, in an unexpected move, the cat leaped from his arms and settled atop her head. The sight of the cat lying on her hair made him burst into laughter. As they began to wrap up and prepare to leave, he noticed a tuft of her hair sticking up. Without thinking much, he reached out to smooth it down, patting her head gently. Instinctively, she pulled away, prompting an immediate apology from him. She was quick to clarify that it wasn't because she disliked it, which caused him to exhale with visible relief. He then turned to the cat and promised to bring food the next time they met. Meanwhile, Suyu was still caught up in the moment, quietly calling the head pat unfair. Her voice, however, was so soft that it came out as a barely audible mumble. He tilted his head slightly, trying to catch her words, but all he heard were murmurs. The group find themselves at the local gaming center one day, with Big Brother tagging along as the designated supervisor. He reminds them not to stray too far from the designated area, keeping his tone firm but gentle. Once inside, they are greeted by a vast array of machines, everything from crane games to metal challenges and classic arcade cabinets. Suyu is overwhelmed by the sheer number of choices, her gaze flicking from one machine to another in search of something that might catch her eye. Eventually, she stops in front of a claw machine housing a character plushie. Chi, noticing this, asked if she wanted to try it out. A small nod from Suyu confirmed her interest. Chi, never one to pass up a competitive opportunity, immediately proposed a challenge. Whoever got the prize first would be the winner. Suyu accepted the challenge with quiet but visible determination. Watching her, older brother raised an eyebrow, surprised at how confident she sounded. Maybe she had more experience with these machines than he'd expected. As the game began, he stepped to the side, letting the girls have their moment. A while later, they returned, both looking defeated and noticeably empty-handed. They explained that they hadn't been able to win the prize, but the more they failed, the more emotional they became, and the more money they ended up spending. Suyu, close to tears, nodded sadly in agreement. Knowing Suyu well, he figured she wouldn't have spent money recklessly unless the prize really meant something to her. Chi, still disappointed, suddenly remembered something. Her brother had once been really good at these kinds of games. Turning to him with expectant eyes, she asked if he could give it a shot. Caught off guard, he tried brushing it off, insisting it had been years since he played. But Suyu's hopeful expression, complete with puppy eyes, melted away whatever resistance he had left. After some effort, 10 tries, to be exact, he finally retrieved the plushie and handed it to Suyu. Chi was beside herself with excitement, proudly declaring that her brother still had it. He tried to wave off the praise, muttering about how many attempts it took. Meanwhile, Suyu, clearly delighted, held the plushie close and thanked him repeatedly. Her face lit up with joy. The girls didn't stop there. Brimming with energy, they quickly began plotting their next round of games. He, on the other hand, retreated to the sidelines, feeling more like a tired chaperone than an active participant. About an hour later, the difference in moods was obvious. One girl was practically glowing while the other trailed behind, visibly dejected. As it turned out, she had won every single game they played, and she didn't hesitate to boast about it. She even went so far as to declare that Suyu was simply bad at games. That comment hit a nerve. Not one to back down from a challenge, Suyu insisted on one final match. Oni-chan realizes she isn't the type to accept defeat easily. Chi hesitated, claiming they had already played nearly every game available. But Suyu, scanning the area with fresh resolve, spotted something. The quiz machine. It was still untouched. Confident and slightly smug, she pointed it out. This was a game she knew she could win. Chi, despite having little idea of what she was walking into, accepted without hesitation. Her brother silently agreed with Suyu's assessment. Chi really wasn't the brightest when it came to trivia. Sure enough, the results were exactly what one would expect. Suyu returned with a calm, satisfied smile, while Chi sulked beside her, having failed to win even a single round. In her frustration, Chi accused Suyu of cheating by choosing a game that favored her. He couldn't help but note that it was exactly how Chi had secured her earlier victories. Still, Suyu stood firm. Fair or not, a win was a win. Unwilling to accept her loss, she turned the tables and sent her brother to fight on her behalf. Suyu didn't protest. In fact, she seemed perfectly fine with the idea. He sighed but went along, stepping up to the quiz game once again. As the siblings bickered over the settings, Suyu kept glancing over, her cheeks slowly turning red. His presence beside her clearly made her flustered, though she tried hard not to show it. Once the game finally began, it was clear that Suyu had become overwhelmed, not by the quiz itself, but by the closeness of the moment. On the way home, she clutched the plushie he had won for her earlier, her expression soft and content. From behind, Chi watched the scene unfold with a grin, seemingly enjoying both the progress Suyu had made and the quiet bond forming right before her eyes. In the teacher's office, both girls are busy sorting through supplies when the teacher remarks that middle schoolers don't seem to make handmade bracelets anymore. He recalls how, during his school days, it used to be a popular trend. Girls would craft those colorful bracelets and give them to boys they liked. Chi says that sounds lovely. The teacher then adds, almost sheepishly, that he never received one himself. Chi's expression falters a little. She tells him that's kind of sad, and he just gives a half laugh, trying to wave it off. Later, Chi and Suyu are watching a tutorial on how to make bracelets, but the steps look overly complicated. Chi says it's confusing now, though she's sure things will click once they begin. They agree to buy some string the next day, but Chi points out that before anything, they need to figure out Big Bro's 3 favorite colors. Suyu already looks overwhelmed. Even though they haven't started yet, she begins to panic, but Chi tries to calm her down. She reminds Suyu that when she talks to him, she must not say anything about bracelets, just ask for his favorite colors and nothing more. Suyu nods with determination, though her nerves are still obvious. When Big Brother finally arrives, they go over the mission one last time. Chi gives Suyu a final push, both literally and figuratively, forcing her into the hallway where he's standing. The moment Suyu greets him, they both fall into a stiff silence. He doesn't know what's going on and instinctively looks around, spotting Chi behind the door making exaggerated gestures of encouragement. Confused but curious, he asks Suyu if she needs something. She nods and, after some hesitation, finally stammers out a question about his favorite colors. Taken aback by the randomness of it, he answers that he likes green and blue. Then, unable to resist, he asks why she's asking. Suyu hesitates but sticks to the plan. She tells him it's a secret and quickly bows before hurrying away. The next day, they gather the materials. Despite the tutorial, it's clear that making bracelets is much harder than they expected. The first few are messy, lopsided, and fall apart quickly. Chi sees Suyu struggling even more than she is, and gently offers to help. Suyu refuses, saying she needs to do it on her own, otherwise it won't mean anything. As the hours pass, her frustration grows. With no progress to show for it, she sends Chi a message. She says she's worried she won't be able to finish it, and her eyes are brimming with tears. She doesn't offer solutions, just a few heartfelt words of encouragement. She tells her to pour all her feelings into the bracelet. If she does that, it'll shine brighter than anything she could buy. Suyu reads the message and quietly wipes her eyes. She thanks Chi, and though her hands are tired, she begins again. This time, not to make it perfect, but to make it hers. A new day dawns, and Suyu glances over a pair of envelopes she has packed sitting neatly on top of her desk. As the bell rings, she declares her tiredness, claiming the class after PE as the worst. She appears to be melting while slumped, shocking the other students. Suyu asks for her hand, and she places the envelope on it. Chi seems curious and asks what if she can open it right away. She finds out that it is the bracelet made by Suyu, and it looks pretty. Immediately, she begins rummaging through her own bag dramatically, and pulls out something similar. She has also made one for her and gifts it to her. They discuss where to put it on, as wearing it on their arms would cause the teachers to confiscate it. They finally settle on the feet. As they are excited with the matching bracelets, she invites her over to her house this evening. Suyu needs to give it to Big Brother after all. Hearing this causes Suyu to blush, but she does not dislike the idea. She made one for him after all. The only question that remains is how to actually give it to him. Chi teases Suyu. Just asking for the colors was enough to knock the wind out of her. How will she even manage to give him this? Suyu seems determined and resolute, claiming she won't let her nerves take the better of her this time. She has mentally prepared herself. Suddenly, the man of the hour appears. Chi thinks this is a fortunate event. Now Suyu won't have to wait for anything, and they can be done with it. Suyu is of a different mind. She has clearly blanked out and is unable to speak. After Chi calls out to her repeatedly, she finally comes to her senses. Recovering quickly, she hands him a bracelet. He gracefully accepts it, and before it can progress any further, she dashes away. At his class, his friends notice something about him. They wonder whether he was always into those sort of old trinkets. It makes them nostalgic as well. He plays it cool by telling them it was from a girl. All the guys turn stiff. They start planning how to bury him as one orders a shovel. He quickly explains it was from his sister's friend. Chi had already finished her bracelet way before. She was just waiting for Tsuyu to finish hers so that she could give it to her in return. In the chemistry lab, the sensei from earlier apologizes to Chi for making her carry all the stuff. She does not mind. In fact, she even has something for him. She remembered him saying he never got one, so she has decided to give him one. Sensei is instantly brought to tears and praises her for being such a kind-hearted girl. He promises to treasure it, but Chi just tells him to wear it normally and stop acting weird. Tatsuya's convenience store shift comes to an end. Hidaka's coworker offers him a casual congratulations for the day's work as he starts gathering his things. He reflects briefly on how unusually busy it's been today. Just then, the store manager walks in and asks if he's heading out. Before he can respond, the manager hands him a box of manjas, apparently a gift. Hidaka thanks him and wonders aloud if he's been out somewhere recently. The manager mentions having gone out with his daughter, but then adds that he's not done yet. He suddenly hands over a pair of tickets, catching Hidaka off guard. Later that evening at home, Chi's curiosity is immediately piqued by the tickets. Hidaka explains that the manager gave them to him, tickets to the aquarium. Apparently, he bought them without asking his daughter first, and now she's more interested in going to the amusement park instead. Chi finds this whole scenario weirdly reminiscent of a Yakuza movie and begins saying so, but Hidaka quickly cuts her off before she gets dramatic. He then asks if she'd like to go this weekend. She lights up and immediately agrees. With a mischievous but sweet look, she asks if Tsuyu can come along too. They're already chatting online, and Hidaka says he doesn't mind. He was actually planning to thank her for the bracelet anyway. Tsuyu, on her end, accepts the invitation without hesitation. She suddenly stops to ask if they even have enough tickets for all three of them. Thankfully, Hidaka confirms they were given exactly 3. The next day at school, Chi can hardly contain her excitement. She tells Tsuyu it's been over a year since she last visited an aquarium, and asks if Tsuyu's ever been to one. Tsuyu says she has, though it's been so long that she barely remembers it. Chi starts murmuring dreamily about all the marine life she wants to see, from sharks and dolphins to seals and the elusive sunfish. Tsuyu mentions she's fond of otters. Chi loves them too, along with jellyfish, and now Tsuyu's even looking forward to the penguins. Their shared excitement begins to snowball. Chi says she already loves aquariums, but now that Suyu's coming too, she's even more excited. Suyu nods. The feeling is mutual. Chi finds it hard to believe Suyu hasn't been in so long. She goes every single year. She quickly takes the reins of planning and launches into what she calls tour captain mode. First, she says they'll catch the classic dolphin show, followed by the penguin show. The capybara feeding is also a highlight. She adds that the jellyfish section is absolutely magical. She promises Suyu the best aquarium trip of her life. Suyu, touched by the enthusiasm, thanks her warmly. But in the middle of Chi's ramble, her excitement causes her to accidentally squash her bread. Suyu reminds her that they should probably focus on finishing lunch first. When the day of the outing finally arrives, things take an unexpected turn. Through a twist of fate, Chi catching a cold, Suyu and Hidaka end up going alone. Chi, despite her illness, insists they go without her. Hidaka feels a bit unsure. He wonders if Suyu would be comfortable going with just him, and offers to bring her back another time when she can come too. But Suyu is so mesmerized by everything in the aquarium, the giant tanks, the graceful movements of sea creatures, that she doesn't even register what he's saying. He watches her for a moment, then smiles faintly and decides to just go with the flow. And so the unexpected aquarium date begins. Back home, Chi is fighting off a stubborn cold. Between sneezes that shake her entire frame, she wonders aloud how Suyu is doing right now. It frustrates her not being able to share this day with her friend. A sudden craving for apples hits her, and she calls out for her father. He responds immediately, her personal emergency butler for the day, and begins slicing an apple without missing a beat. Meanwhile, at the aquarium entrance, Hidaka and Suyu are just about to step inside when Suyu's phone buzzes. It's Chi. She's apologizing profusely for not being able to come and practically demands that Suyu enjoy the day with her big brother instead. A second message follows right after, Chi doubling down and telling her to have fun for both of them. Hidaka seems to guess the contents of the messages. He raises an eyebrow and asks whether Chi is being dramatic again, probably saying things like "enjoy the day for my sake" or something equally theatrical. Suyu can't deny it. Her cheeks go warm with a blush. Seeing that, he smiles and says that since it's come to this, they really should make the most of the day. He mentions how much Chi truly loves aquariums, probably more than anyone else he knows. This was something she had been looking forward to deeply. Hearing that, Suyu's resolve strengthens. She silently promises to do her best to honor Chi's wishes and enjoy every bit of it. As they step inside, Suyu stops in her tracks. Her eyes are locked onto the vast display of fish swimming elegantly beyond the glass. Each one moves as if part of some invisible choreography. She's completely mesmerized. Hidaka watches her reaction and quietly remarks that no matter how many times he comes here, the sight never loses its charm. Suyu simply nods, still caught in the moment. He breaks the silence with a random musing, wondering aloud whether the sardines in that big tank ever get eaten. Suyu hums thoughtfully, clearly following his train of thought. He too seems taken in by the underwater world. Suyu glances at his focused expression and for a moment forgets everything else around her. He then turns to her and asks if there's anything she's particularly interested in seeing. She mentions the jellyfish. He nods, telling her they're located a bit further inside, just past a few more exhibits. They start walking again, viewing a wide range of fish along the way, even passing through a tunnel tank where marine life swims overhead. After some time, he notices the distance they'd covered and asks if she's getting tired. Suyu reassures him she's fine. The jellyfish section is close now, and when they finally reach it, it doesn't disappoint. Ethereal and glowing, the jellyfish float like spirits in a slow-motion dance, just as she imagined them. Hidaka's just relieved they haven't been moved. Then, curious, he asks if she's always liked jellyfish. Her answer surprises him. She actually never cared much for them. She came to see them for Chi's sake. That catches him off guard, but it all clicks now. He shares a bit of their family history, how both Chi and their mom love aquariums. It's become a yearly family tradition, in fact, and jellyfish? Easily their favorite. He's certain Chi really wanted to share this beloved place with Suyu. Suyu takes it all in, quietly touched. She's genuinely glad she was able to come, not just for the experience, but for the chance to learn more about Chi and spend time with him. She softly says that next time she hopes they can come together, all three of them. He looks at her and agrees without hesitation. He'd like that too. Suyu's brought more food than either of them expected. It makes sense. There were supposed to be 3 people coming today. She shyly tells Hidaka it's perfectly okay if he can't finish everything, but he's already eyeing the food with interest. It all looks delicious, and with her permission, he's ready to dig in. About an hour earlier, as they wrapped up their sightseeing, the afternoon sun was already hanging high. Hidaka had asked if she had anything in mind for lunch. He'd begun listing suggestions. There was the food court inside the aquarium, of course. But when Sui hadn't responded enthusiastically, he quickly switched gears and mentioned a cafe nearby, one he remembers being good. Still, there's no clear reaction from her. It's only after a beat that Suyu starts speaking, her familiar stammer returning. He wonders briefly if something is wrong, but she eventually gets it out. She's brought lunch. A lot of it. Hidaka's surprised, especially when she admits her mom helped her prepare it. She apologizes for forgetting your plan to eat out and says she probably made too much. But Hidaka waves off her concern. To reassure her, he dramatically takes a bite of a sandwich and pretends to be overwhelmed by how good it is. It's egg, the kind his sister loves most. He jokes that maybe their tastes are the same because they're siblings. That seems to do the trick. Suyu visibly relaxes, sighing with relief, though a bit too audibly. Realizing she let it slip, she fumbles to cover it up, telling him to forget what he saw. Hidaka just blinks. He didn't even catch what she meant. They finish the meal, and Hidaka thanks her again. It really was amazing. Suyu's in a lighter mood now, so he asks if there's anything else she wants to do. Turns out there is. They make their way to the souvenir shop, shelves lined with all kinds of trinkets and plushies. Suyu wants to buy something for Chi. Since there's a lot to choose from, they agree to split up and search separately. While browsing, Hidaka grabs a few things for his manager. After all, those tickets were a gift. He even picks something out for his coworkers. But when he returns to the meeting spot, Suyu still isn't there. He drifts toward the toy section, half distracted, until something, or rather someone, blocks his entire view. A strange figure is in front of him. He squints and mutters a quiet question. What exactly is this thing supposed to be? Suyu, perfectly calm, answers, Mr. Gently. Hidaka stares at the character, a jellyfish with top hat and monocle, and can't help finding it a little odd, but Suyu's expression is unwavering. Apparently, Mr. Gently is a gentleman jellyfish. He doesn't really know how to respond to that, so he just accepts it. They'll go with that as the final gift. The train ride back is unusually quiet. There are more empty seats than usual, something Hidaka points out. Suyu simply nods. He thanks her for coming to the aquarium with him, but when he glances at her, she seems half asleep. Her eyes flutter open when he calls her name again, startled. She rubs her eyes, trying to stay alert, but it's no use. She's fading fast. Seeing that, he tells her to sleep. He'll make sure she wakes up when they arrive. She murmurs a soft thank you and lets herself rest. Eventually, Hidaka feels his own eyelids grow heavy. With the train gently rocking and the atmosphere quiet, he drifts off too. Sometime later, the two can be seen slumped gently against each other, lulled into sleep by the rhythm of the train, a peaceful end to a day neither of them quite expected, but both seem quietly grateful for. In the middle of the town square, a chic-looking figure stands alone, turning their phone around in their hand with visible confusion. After checking it again, they mutter under their breath that they'd gotten themselves lost once more. Back at Chi's house, she is met with a familiar figure, the monocled jellyfish plush suddenly thrust before her. Suyu quietly explains that it's a gift she picked up at the aquarium. There's a sparkle in her eye, clear pride in her choice. She begins describing a whole backstory she's crafted. Mr. Gently, she says, is a gentleman jellyfish who works diligently behind the scenes at the aquarium. Chi accepts the gift, amused and marvels again at her friend's wild imagination. Suyu seems happy that her present is well received. Chi then brings up something else she's been curious about, how the outing went. Suyu immediately flushes a deep red and tries to deny it was a date, but eventually, with a stammer, she admits that it was fun and that Ani-san had shown her around. Chi suggests that he probably remembered all the good spots because of how often she drags him around during your own visits. Suyu, still shy, repeats that she truly had a good time. Chi grins, relieved. She admits she was worried Suyu might collapse from nerves. Suyu doesn't deny it. She was incredibly nervous. Still, she's glad she went. When Chi expresses that she had really wanted to go together, Suyu quickly reassures her that, while it was enjoyable, it would have been even better if Chi had been there too. She suggests that next time, the three of them should go together. Chi agrees with her usual excitement, insisting that the three of them will have 100 times more fun than Suyu did with her brother. The girls part ways with smiles. On her way home, Suyu thinks back to that awkward moment when the word date came up and instantly starts blushing again. She tries to shake off the memory, but in the process, something falls from her bag. A voice calls out to her, addressing her as little girl. When she turns, she sees the same person from earlier in the square. They're holding out the plush character she had won with Ani-san at the claw machine. Realizing it had indeed fallen without her noticing, she thanks them sincerely and tells them it's a gift from a friend. There's a weight behind her words that doesn't go unnoticed. Noticing the broken strap, the stranger comments that it won't hang properly anymore. Without a second thought, they remove the band from their own wrist and offer it to her. They say it's just a temporary fix, but it should do for now. Suyu hesitates, feeling awkward accepting a stranger's item, but they assure her it's nothing special, cheap even. Compared to losing something so meaningful, it's no big deal. With a few gentle words, they part ways. Later, Yuto finally arrives. He comments that it's been a while, but he's immediately tugged forward by his tie. His childhood friend is clearly annoyed, reminding him that they had told him exactly when to arrive. Yuto apologizes, saying that a teacher held him up, but the friend doesn't seem impressed. They tell him he should be prioritizing them over teachers by now. When Yuto mentions that he thought they were moving in tomorrow, the friend clarifies that this visit is just for light luggage and an inspection. Tomorrow is for the actual moving. And as a childhood friend, they add, he should be helpful enough to assist with even this much. Yuto sighs. There's no winning against that kind of logic. Not that he really minds. Sensei stands at the front of the classroom, giving a farewell speech. He advises the students to spend their summer vacations wisely, warning them to stay safe and not to follow strangers. The entire class sits through the talk, clearly bored by his slow, monotonous delivery, though deep down they do appreciate the care behind his words. As he wraps up with a gentle goodbye, he reminds them not to forget their homework. The class responds in unison, promising not to. Just as everyone begins packing up, Chi suddenly pounces on Suyu, startling her. Suyu doesn't react much. She simply starts patting her friend on the head in a robotic fashion, having grown used to these sudden attacks. Two girls from another class, Taki and Toko, comment from nearby on how close the two still are. Suyu wonders aloud why they're even here, but Chi clears the confusion right away. She declares loudly, in typical Chi fashion, that summer is meant for beaches, festivals, mountains, and fireworks, especially the sea. This year, she says, they'll all be heading to the ocean together. Her enthusiasm isn't exactly contagious. The others seem far less excited, saying she has enough energy for the rest of them combined. They also point out the obvious. They can't go without a supervisor. Chi, however, is already one step ahead. This time, she's arranged for Big Brother to be their guardian. Taki and Toko exchange glances, wondering if this is the Big Brother they've been hearing about. When she asks Suyu if she's okay with that arrangement, Suyu gives a shy nod. The girls collectively agree it's incredibly cute. With the start of summer, she practically bounces as they head home. She talks nonstop about all the things to enjoy. The sea, watermelons, beach volleyball, and more. She suddenly turns and asks Suyu if she has a swimsuit ready. Suyu says she only has her school one, causing Chi to gasp dramatically. She asks if Suyu seriously plans to wear that. Suyu quietly clarifies she doesn't fit into her older ones anymore and is planning to buy a new one. This excites Chi even more. It's the perfect excuse to go shopping, and she promises to help Suyu pick out the cutest swimsuit. As they turn a corner, however, Suyu suddenly stops walking. Her eyes fix ahead, and she falls completely silent. When Chi follows her gaze, she spots Aniki and Itsukini standing ahead. Itsuki notices them too and waves warmly. Chi dashes forward, saying it's been so long since they last met. Ani-san greets Suyu as well, but she's still frozen in place. Eventually, she regains her composure and quietly returns the greeting. Itsuki laughs, remembering her as the little girl from their previous encounter, and Suyu immediately recalls the moment too. They all settle in together, and Itsuki marvels at the coincidence, running into Chi's best friend through sheer chance. Chi beams and formally introduces Suyu, calling her adorable. Suyu tries to get her to stop, but Itsuki nods in agreement, clearly sharing the sentiment. Hoping to shift the attention away, Suyu begins thanking Itsuki for the other day, but Itsuki brushes it off, saying they're friends now. There's no need for thanks. Meanwhile, Yuto gets caught in the middle of orders. Itsuki wants her coffee black, while Chi insists on milk coffee. With a sigh, Yuto heads back to the kitchen to start over. Tsuyu quietly follows him, offering to help. Back in the living room, Itsuki watches the two disappear into the kitchen and turns to Chi with a curious look. She wonders aloud how Chi managed to find such a close friend, remarking that she's changed so much over the last 2 years. Chi looks thoughtful, questioning if she's really that different now. Itsuki reminds her of how she used to be, a little crybaby always calling her Ni-chan. She admits she was genuinely worried when they had to part ways. Chi tries to brush off the memories. She loudly insists she doesn't cry anymore, but her face is flushed with embarrassment. Itsuki laughs warmly and asks if she's having fun now. After a brief pause, Chi nods with quiet but firm confidence. Yes, she says, she really is. Itsuki watches her closely. There's a flicker of something deeper in her gaze, a vague sense that someone has taken Chi away from her. From the kitchen doorway, Tsuyu catches sight of everything. Yuto turns to her and quietly explains that Itsuki is their childhood friend and has always been like an older sister to Chi. He notes how happy they are to see each other after so long, and he apologizes, thinking maybe Itsuki is taking up time that Tsuyu would rather be spending with Chi. Tsuyu shakes her head and tells him it's not a problem, but she soon excuses herself to the bathroom. Once inside, she quietly locks the door and presses a hand to her chest. Her breathing is shallow. She can't quite explain what she's feeling, only that it won't leave her alone. The city square, Tsuyu is met by Taki and Toko-chan. All three are dressed neatly, clearly prepared for the day. They ask her again if it's true that Chi won't be joining them, and Tsuyu confirms it, explaining that Chi has something important she couldn't miss. Taki quietly suggests it might have something to do with a man, though Toko doesn't seem convinced. She reminds Taki that it's Chi they're talking about. She already has Tsuyu after all. Tsuyu notices them whispering and asks what they're talking about, but they brush her off, saying it's nothing. The topic soon changes as they walk into the mall. Taki brings up swimsuits, asking Tsuyu what kind she's thinking of buying. The conversation continues ahead of her, with Toko mentioning that it's been a long time since Taki went to the sea. Taki says she hasn't gone in years, while Toko claims she visited just last year. That gets Taki asking for advice, whether she should bring floaties, sandals, and what else might be useful. Toko says she's also in the mood for watermelon. They call back to Tsuyu, asking her what she plans to buy, but she doesn't respond. When they call her name again, she snaps out of her thoughts and asks them to repeat what they said. The two exchange a quick glance before Taki cautiously suggests that maybe Tsuyu is worried about Chi. Tsuyu denies it strongly, insisting it's about something else entirely, though her expression betrays her. Taki gently tells her that it's obvious she's upset about Chi not being there. Toko agrees, pointing out that it's written all over her face. As Tsuyu tries to defend herself, she suddenly trips and falls. The others immediately rush to her side and ask if she's hurt. She insists she's fine. But they quickly notice the bruise forming on her elbow and the blood beginning to trickle down. At the sight of it, Taki collapses, clearly overwhelmed. She begins sweating and appears close to fainting. Toko, taking control of the situation, yells at her to stop acting like she's the one who got injured. She turns to Tsuyu, asking if she can sit on a nearby bench while they go fetch some bandages. Taki has to be half-dragged toward the store, still looking sick and shaken. As they reach the shop, Taki anxiously wonders whether a whole box of bandages might be necessary. Toko reassures her that one will do. They look through the available options, 3 different sizes, and Taki insists on the largest, convinced the wound is worse than it looks. She begins panicking, voicing concerns about internal injuries. Toko tells her to calm down, saying a bandage and some disinfectant will be enough. Back at the bench, Tsuyu sits quietly. She finally says, more to herself than anyone else, that it's not like Chi always has to be with her. Her thoughts drift to the last conversation she had with Chi when they promised to shop for swimsuits together. She remembers how Chi later apologized, saying she just couldn't get out of her current situation. Tsuyu pouts, calling her a liar. Elsewhere, laughter erupts in a hospital room. Yuto and Chi arrive, only to find their father beaming with energy. He greets them with theatrical joy, teasing them for their shocked expressions and saying they shouldn't look so disappointed. He's not dead yet. He cheerfully declares that it's their dear dad sitting before them. Yuto expresses disbelief at how well their father is doing, explaining how they rushed here after hearing about a serious accident. The father downplays the incident, saying it was just a broken leg and jokes that he's glad the injury managed to bring his kids running. He then asks Chi for a hug, saying it's been a while. Chi, unimpressed, tells him to shut up. Their father immediately sulks, saying she must be going through a rebellious phase. Yuta remarks that it's probably their dad's own fault, which only makes the man angrier. He jokingly asks if Yuta is also going through his rebellious phase, and Yuta replies that getting depressed over a grown daughter is what's truly uncool. The father starts shaking with fury, offended by his son's words. Yuta offers him a peeled apple, and the hospital staff requests that he keep his voice down. He mutters an apology. Chi sighs, lamenting that she had wanted to go shopping that day. Later, Tsuyu's wound has been treated and the girls are walking home. Taki and Toko ask if she feels better now, and she says she does. They mention that, unfortunately, they didn't find any good swimsuits this time. Taki quickly changes the subject, talking about the parfaits they had instead. Everyone agrees that they were delicious. They teased Tsuyu, saying they even took a picture of her with her cheeks full, looking like a squirrel. Tsuyu is surprised but doesn't say anything. They agreed to go swimsuit hunting again next week. Toko suggests that next time the four of them can go together. As the evening winds down, they say their goodbyes and promise to meet again at school tomorrow. Tsuyu, however, seems distant and doesn't respond right away. They ask again if she's truly alright. She insists that she is. Taki offers to walk her home, but she refuses. Toko reminds her to be careful on the way back. As Tsuyu walks away, her footsteps slow and uneven. The girls watch her disappear into the distance. They quietly wonder to each other whether she's really okay. Eventually, Tsuyu reaches home. Her mother mentions that she's been trying to call her, assuming her phone might have died. Tsuyu says nothing and heads straight to her room. Her parents exchange concerned glances, wondering if something has happened. In her room, Tsuyu collapses onto the bed and begins rolling from side to side. Her thoughts are tangled. Images of Chi laughing with Itsuki replay again and again. After a long silence, she finally murmurs something under her breath. Her head hurts. At school, Chi dramatically cries out for Tsuyu, but is nowhere to be found. They believe that she got knocked out from a cold. She was feeling under the weather yesterday as well. Chi is surprised to hear this just now. Chi has tears in her eyes as she begins thinking about how Tsuyu must be crying due to her loneliness. They try to calm her down, but she just gets even more fired up. Instead, she vows to visit her after school. Looking at this, the two begin talking amongst themselves. This is what true love looks like. Back home, Tsuyu checks her temperature and is relieved it has taken a turn for the better. As she steps out of her room to the living room, there's a note left for her from Dad. Mom has left for groceries, and she can eat the rice balls made by Dad. He wants her to eat them and eat some medicine if she still does not feel well. There's also some pudding in the fridge. When she looks at the rice balls, her stomach grumbles. The moment she has set the table, the bell rings. Outside, Chi is wondering if she should have brought something other than apples as well. She wonders why Taki and Toko claimed they were busy while grinning. As the door opens and a cute Tsuyu appears on the door, Chi is momentarily frozen. She begins screaming out of worry. A sick person should not be walking about. Tsuyu apologizes and tells her that someone had to open the door. When things finally have calmed down a bit, Chi asks Tsuyu if she wants to eat some apples. Tsuyu wants to. She begins cutting them and asks how the fever is. She is glad when she hears it has come down. She was super worried when she heard about her. Tsuyu apologizes. Chi asks her to stop apologizing. She adds that her worry compounded when she didn't reply. Tsuyu claims her phone's out of battery. Chi had expected that since that is what happened to her yesterday too. That's why she was not able to call her, and when she finally reached home and messaged her and did not receive a reply, she knew the same happened to Tsuyu as well. Tsuyu tries to say something but is cut off when she asks about her swimsuit. After a brief pause, Tsuyu tells her she did not get one. She gets excited, claiming the four of them can go together. Tsuyu agrees as Chi plans the next meeting with the other two. Finally, Tsuyu gathers her confidence and asks about the reason she could not come yesterday. Was that because of Itsukini-san? With an instant reply, Chi denies it, wondering where the thought even came from. She suddenly remembers about informing her the reason for her sudden ditching yesterday. They had to rush to the hospital due to their dad getting in an accident at work yesterday. Both her and Aniki had went. Tsuyu thuds to unconsciousness, probably due to embarrassment. As Chi lays her down properly, she calls out to her friend who is breathing short breaths while breaking a sweat. She wonders if her not going yesterday caused all this mess, but she still does not understand what Itsukini has got to do with all this. As Sui wakes up, still drowsy and dazed, she finds it weird to see Chi here. Chi is happy to see her awake. She was so worried when Suyu collapsed so suddenly. Suyu just calls her an idiot. Chi asks if she did anything wrong and if Suyu is feeling sick anywhere. Suyu just replies that she should go and hang out with Itsuki-san or something. The fever has taken hold of her. She rambles on about how cool Itsuki-san is and how kind she is, also playing the role of big sister. Obviously, she has known her for longer than Suyu, and the two seemed to be having so much fun the other day. Chi cannot say anything, but Suyu continues. She knows that Chi loves Itsuki, even though she knows that she cannot help but want to be Chi's number one. These heartfelt words cause a jolt to run through Chi's body. She instantly jumps to hug Suyu, but she is out of power and has fallen asleep. After wrapping her up properly to make sure she does not catch a cold again, she gazes kindly at her. Chi declares that Suyu needs to be more honest with herself. Later, as Suyu wakes up, her mom tells her Chi has already left. When she checks her phone, she is blasted by Chi's obnoxious voice, commanding her to wake up, followed by her ramblings on how she should be more careful about her health. She also reminds her their plan of the summer vacations, so she absolutely must get better. Finally, her text message declares her as her number one. She will never forget that and pamper her as much as necessary. Suyu tries recollecting the memories but is unable to. However, she is happy to have received such a message and replies with a smile. Her mom asks her for lunch and she heads to eat. The long-awaited day finally arrives, and the gang finds themselves at the beach, bubbling with excitement. Yudo, already assuming the role of guardian, tries to keep order as everyone is eager to dash into the sea. But before they can go wild, he reminds them sternly to change into their swimsuits first. Chi, already halfway toward the water, casually says she's already wearing hers underneath and just needs to take off her top. Yudo, already exasperated, has to yell at her again to use the changing room like everyone else. With a theatrical groan, Chi gives in, gathers the rest of the group, and heads off. Yudo sighs, already exhausted, and the day hasn't even truly started. While the girls are away, Itsuki suggests they grab a spot to settle in. As they do, Yudo throws her a look and asks what she's even doing there. She calmly explains that she couldn't possibly leave her sisters in his care alone. The word sisters catches him off guard. Plural? He hadn't realized she thought of them that way. Soon after, the girls return, changed and cheerful. Chi and Taki are both in vests, while Toko and Suyu wear full-sleeved swimwear. Chi turns to Suyu and asks if her hand is all better now. Suyu gives a quiet nod. Everyone is relieved and expresses how happy they are to hear it. Che, in her usual dramatic fashion, recalls an old memory of her own. She'd once had a similar injury and still went swimming. Curious, the others ask what happened afterward. She tells them bluntly that it hurt like hell. The pain was so sharp she thought she might not survive. Taki, laughing, says that's just because Chi was being dumb. The teasing continues as attention turns to Toko and Suyu. Why were they in full sleeves? Toko explains hers matter-of-factly. Her skin burns easily. But Suyu hesitates, unable to give a quick answer. When she finally murmurs that it's embarrassing, all three girls melt at the cuteness of her reply. None of them seem to have a problem with it. They find it absolutely adorable. Meanwhile, Yudo is still busy setting up the umbrella. Itsuki, sitting beside him, suddenly nudges him and points toward a beautiful woman nearby. He shouts at her to focus on their task instead. Before she can tease him further, the girls return. Everyone looks refreshed, and Itsuki casually compliments how they all look in their swimsuits. They mention plans to play beach volleyball and invite the two of them to join, but Yudo declines, saying someone has to keep an eye on the bags. He turns to Itsuki, offering her the chance to go instead, but she passes too. Chi groans, complaining that they came all this way and now no one wants to play. Yudo shrugs, saying he'll join in when he feels like it. Before they run off, he tells them to stay close together, and Chi yells out an acknowledgement. As things settle down for a moment, Itsuki turns to Yudo and accuses him of trying to act cool. He almost chokes on the water he's drinking and tries to deny it, but it's far too obvious. She mimics him, putting on a serious face and mockingly repeating his earlier warnings like a dramatic big brother. Flustered, Yudo admits that he is the big brother, so what's wrong with wanting to act like one? He says, more quietly this time, that he just wants to be dependable, at least for Chi. Itsuki grins and tells him how cool he sounds. Embarrassed now, he immediately takes it all back and warns her not to let Chi hear any of it. She doesn't say anything right away, she just keeps watching him. When he notices and asks why she's staring, she simply shakes her head and says it's nothing. But then, softer than before, she tells him that he really is the big brother.
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand, I know I walked away. Had to find the person I'd become.